In this video, we are going to talk about volcanoes on the moon. Now I know for a fact that there is no life on the moon. So how can there be volcanoes on the moon? Well, scientists have discovered evidence of ancient fire on our closest celestial neighbor. But what exactly does that mean? What's up, guys? It's me, and this is my channel. There is so much mystery surrounding the moon. It has inspired poets, guided lovers, determined explorers, and sent people to space. For the most part, the moon has always been a source of fascination for mankind. Most of us have stared into its craters and wondered if it could hold any answers about our planet's past. We know now that the moon formed after a large object crashed into the Earth long ago. The debris collected in the sky and over time formed the moon that we know today. Scientists also believe that the moon has helped to stabilize the Earth's tilt and has had an effect on the length of our days. And the theory goes that without the moon, we would not have oceans. But recently, scientists have found evidence of something even more interesting on the moon: volcanic activity. Yes, that's right. Our moon may have once been home to some mighty lunar volcanoes. As usual, it all started with a lunar rock. In 1969, astronauts from NASA's Apollo 11 mission brought back lunar samples from the moon. It was incredible material for scientists to analyze. They were able to determine that the moon was much drier than they expected. They also realized that the rocks contained high levels of potassium and phosphorus. At the time, these elements were believed to be incompatible with one another. This meant that they probably originated from different sources. Researchers assumed that the moon must have had a very complex history and that it had changed quite a bit since the moon rocks were formed. At that time, there was a prevailing idea that the moon was geologically dead. In other words, there was no longer any activity happening beneath the moon's surface. This is actually a term used to describe planets or other celestial bodies that used to be very active but are now completely inert. However, the discovery of these incompatible elements led researchers to question this belief. They began to think that perhaps the moon was once covered with oceans just like Earth. Then, perhaps over billions of years, the water evaporated into outer space. If this were true, then the moon wasn't as dry as it seemed. Perhaps the moon rocks simply didn't contain any evidence of ancient water because they came from deep inside the moon. Okay, let's take a step back here and talk about volcanoes. You don't need to be a scientist to know that volcanoes are impressive geological structures. Volcanoes form when molten rock called magma pushes its way through the crust of the Earth. This happens because the Earth's tectonic plates are always moving around. When they collide, the pressure causes magma to bubble up towards the surface. Magma is created deep inside the Earth where temperatures are extremely high. It's basically melted rock. But when it reaches the surface, it's called lava. Magma contains gases which expand as the pressure decreases. This expansion creates even more pressure, and the result is an eruption. Volcanoes usually come in different shapes and sizes. Some are tall and steep, while others are wide and flat. But they all have one thing in common. They are made of layers of lava and ash. Now imagine if something similar happened on the moon. I know it sounds crazy, but researchers really think that the moon once had volcanoes just like ours. There is only one problem. The moon doesn't have an atmosphere. So how could volcanoes exist on its surface? Well, it turns out that volcanic activity could have occurred on the moon billions of years ago when it was much warmer than it is today. Back then, there was an atmosphere on the moon, so eruptions would have been possible. But how do scientists know that the moon had an atmosphere? Well, there is evidence of an ancient atmosphere trapped inside the moon rocks. You see, when rocks are formed deep within a planet, they can trap gases that are present at the time. These gases become part of the rock's mineral structure. In a way, it's like a time capsule. The gases trapped inside the moon rocks show that the moon once had an atmosphere. Not only that, but scientists can also tell that the atmosphere contained free oxygen. This means that the moon may have had liquid water as well. After all, we know that oxygen and water go together. So far, we've talked about two pieces of evidence for lunar volcanoes: the presence of incompatible elements and the existence of a past atmosphere. But there is a third piece of evidence that makes the case airtight. Scientists have actually discovered real evidence of volcanic eruptions on the moon. In 2020, researchers analyzed images taken by the Lunar Reconnaissance orbiter. The probe is operated by NASA and was launched into space in 2009. Its job is to map the moon's surface in great detail, and it just so happened to capture some pretty interesting images. The pictures showed mysterious light-colored spots on the moon's surface. Researchers realized that they were looking at volcanic glass. This type of rock is only created by volcanic activity. So it provided clear evidence that there were once volcanoes on the moon. Now, you might be thinking that if the moon had volcanoes, wouldn't we have noticed by now? I mean, shouldn't there be some sort of evidence on the surface? Well, turns out we haven't been looking hard enough. In 2020, scientists discovered something truly incredible. A team of researchers was studying an area of the moon called the South Pole region. It's located near the bottom of a crater and is full of ice. The researchers were using data from NASA's Lunar Crater Observation and Navigation Mapping System. Using this technology, they saw that the bottom of the crater had an unusual amount of glass. It was obvious that this was the result of volcanic activity. It turns out that there are many places on the moon that contain this type of volcanic glass. There are hundreds of them scattered across the surface. But what really makes this discovery so special is that the South Pole region is home to lunar water. Not only that, but it also contains hydroxyl ions. These are groups of atoms consisting of one oxygen atom and one hydrogen atom. Hydroxyl ions are produced when water is exposed to ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So put together, you get water and hydroxyl ions. This means that there is a good chance there is still liquid water somewhere underneath the surface of the moon. If there was water on the moon, that would explain why the moon rocks contained those incompatible elements. You see, billions of years ago, the moon would have looked a lot like the early Earth. It would have had volcanoes, an atmosphere, oceans, and maybe even life. Over time, the moon lost its atmosphere, and its water disappeared. But the elements remained trapped in the rocks until we dug them up. So the key to understanding the moon's past may lie in its volcanoes. Scientists think that studying the remains of lunar volcanoes could help them learn more about the moon's history. For example, researchers want to find out when exactly the moon became geologically inactive. This will help them better understand how our planet evolved. Scientists also hope that exploring the moon's volcanic regions will reveal more about the origins of water on Earth. Some researchers even think that there may still be hot magma beneath the surface of the moon. If this is true, then there may still be some volcanic activity happening there. It just might be too weak to detect. To be honest, there is so much that we don't know about the moon. Even though it's our closest celestial neighbor, it still holds many secrets. Maybe one day we will discover more evidence of ancient volcanoes on the moon. Maybe we will even find preserved bacteria or other microorganisms. Who knows? The moon may be full of surprises. As usual, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Also, let me know your thoughts about the moon in the comments section down below. Do you think there is life on the moon? And what do you think we will discover there next? I really enjoy reading your comments. As always, keep looking up. See you next time.